It's Sunday, the 1st of September, wrapping up a month of August yesterday. And yesterday I posted for the world in the news release that we do for our weekly editorial, for a way to get a bit of editorial from JD Vance. If they're looking for that, if you're looking for that and can't find it in your local newspaper, which chances are you're not, go to the website thisisaconversationproject.com, and we're posting on the Saturdays. Yesterday we did a recap from the prior Thursday, which was the 29th of August, where Kamala Harris and Tim Walz gave their first interview as they are now running for president and vice president respectively, or mostly Kamala Harris, who seems to be dodging the press because she seems to be dodging the press. Now, the flack against that is 6 weeks since she took over the nomination spot for presidency, and basically a week or so after the convention, she's not talked to any real press in any real manner. That's not exactly true, because she does talk to people in scrums and talk to people getting boarding planes back and forth. So she's answered some random questions, the yelling at the questions as they're going to the airplane type thing. But she's not taking any time to do a press conference or sit down for anyone particular. The particular she sat down for Thursday was Dana Bash, who did a B-level job. She could have pushed more. She could have asked more probing questions. She didn't. This is not a critique of her. This is a critique of the actual interview that was given, the words said out of the mouth of Kamala Harris, plus Tim Walz, and a bonus on CNN the next day. John Berman had a chance to talk to JD Vance doing the rebuttal stuff, and we'll talk about him in a bit. Now, it's Sunday, so all day today, the morning shows had their time to rebut what was going for or to support what happened. Of course, Democrats are pushing for what was said, saying it was awesome. And Republicans are saying it was weak, it wasn't worth anything. Now, if it weren't for the fact that they found the 6 bodies in Gaza, one being an American hostage who was of Jewish half of American citizenship, which is taking over everything right now, they'd still be playing clips of the Kamala stuff. But here's my critique of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz plus JD Vance. Start with Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris did a okay job. She's getting a C+ for what's going on, because she sat down with the interviewer, being Dana Bash. She sat down for, it was an hour-long special with some clips and setups, so it was probably 40 minutes of actual time, although it was split between venues. There were sit-down parts, and then there was a walking-around part as well, so it's staged, if you will. Made for TV, what's going on. The biggest issue is low information voters who don't watch CNN aren't tuning into CNN to see this. They're seeing the clips from wherever the news sources are, and they're, of course, bashing the hell out of it. But her answers weren't exactly great. They weren't terrible. She didn't fall on her face. She didn't ramble and go on to weird topics, but they weren't great. Let's start off with the topic that they had on fracking and the flip-flopping. This was the easiest thing to point out to her being a flip-flopper, because fracking was a big thing that she was against when she was in California. It was a big thing she was against when she was running against Joe Biden to be president 4 years ago, whatever. And, well, she's changed. And she's changed because Joe Biden was for fracking because it means jobs. And Kamala Harris, as the vice president, her job is to support her man, so that meant jobs. And now she's finding out that if she goes against fracking, she's losing big votes. So she changed. She evolved. We all evolve. We all change. But this is just one of the big flip-floppers going back and forth, and how the Republicans and Donald Trump are claiming she's a big flaming liberal, when in some cases she is more liberal in some of her decisions in the past and some of her points in the past. But she's changed. They can't really push that narrative because she's become more mainstream in general and has not been as crazy liberal as she was, even from the time when she was actually running for president against Joe Biden. So there's that. Another issue that I take umbrage with is Kamala Harris and her attack against Donald Trump, which was a non-attack. It didn't happen. Donald Trump has targeted Kamala Harris, and one of the biggest target pieces, the only one that really makes any, well, none of them make any sense. The only one that really kind of get our attention we talk about is the day she turned black, or the statement that she was Indian and then all of a sudden she was black, which makes no sense because she's always been black and Indian. She's always identified as a black person. She went to a black college, university. She's in a black sorority. They call her the black person, whatever. She dated prominent black people when she was in California, which, you know, weren't prominent Asian people. And while she's married to a Jewish man now, she's still black. She's never not been black. She's always been black. Her father is black, or from the Caribbean, and her mother is from India. So she's of both. She's both. She's black and she's Indian. So now that we got that covered, which probably some people still won't get that one. Here's the deal. When pushed to, not really pushed, that's the kind of thing. She wasn't pushed to ask a question. The question was lobbed at her, and she just watched it go. Because she said, it's same old, next question. And people are going nuts for this answer. Her supporters, the pundits, are saying, wow, she just let it go. She didn't want to touch it. She didn't want to get into that rhetoric. She did not want to go into mud with Donald Trump. Outstanding. But the problem is she should have said something to lead up to that next question. She should have said that Donald Trump is Donald Trump. She should have called him out for saying these things and coming with things that are general nonsense and just out there to basically rise or get a rise out of people who don't have the sense to really understand what's going on. And because of that, I'm not dealing with that. We're moving on. We're not going to give him any extra cover on that. We're going to acknowledge that he does this and take the high road and say, next question. That's what wasn't said. She had a chance to address to African American and Indian and females out there of the younger bunch that some old white guy throwing out racist stuff can do what he can do, can say what he wants to say. That doesn't stop you from doing what you want to do and being what you want to be, and I don't know, running for president one day. It can happen. You'll see what happens in the future on that one. So she could have addressed that. She could have put some mustard on that ball and hit that one out of the park. But people are loving the fact that she basically had a ball capacitor for the most part, as opposed to her actually doing something with that piece of information. Tim Walz was there. We're not quite sure why Tim Walz was there. That's sort of the problem. Tim Walz was there to bring up backup support in the effort was going on. And Tim Walz's grade is a C- because he was there. He didn't say anything embarrassing, but he did offer very little to fix what his issue was, and that's some gaffes he said. He sort of gave it to his wife, whose explanation is, you know, his grammar's not so great and the words aren't always perfect. You know, he was, you know, an enlisted guy in the Guard, and he was a football coach, by the way. So, hey, he's also a governor, and so words mean something when you become a governor. So the fact that he said he used weapons of war in wartime, but not in a war zone, was a gaffe. He should have just owned up to it and say, these are words that kind of get misspoken, get twisted around. The whole point is, these are weapons that people in wartime and people like warrior types should be holding, practicing with, and shooting and using, and not school shootings. He talked about the DUI that wasn't DUI, that he might have got off on, that he maybe wasn't drunk or something. That gets even more confusing, and that's something that you can sort of admit to and go forward with. What it shows is he's got away with something fairly early in his political career. That's what it shows. That's what it looks like, at least. It's not proving very much when you can't unexplain these things, or you can't say something even in the point of a politician that's semi, rational, that just kind of gibberish going on that level. Oh yeah, Kamala Harris was making pancakes and bacon for her grandnieces when Joe Biden called and said, "Hey kiddo, I'm giving you the ball. I'm finally stepping off the plate." I've been using that analogy for Biden all the time. Finally stepping off the plate. The ball is there. You got the ball. You throw the first pitch. You got it. Which was great, I guess. A humanizing story, I guess. And I'm not saying it wasn't true, but it was a matter of we could have got more detail about. We could have got more detail about the call. Essentially, what she said was Biden called, said, "I'm getting out," and for whatever reason, she wasn't going to go deep into it, obviously, but I'm getting out, and I'm putting my full endorsement in you. Of course, it took a few days for him to actually say that out loud, and there was a time where people were thinking about the open challenge or the karaoke contest, or basically, melee with axes and knives or whatnot. Whatever they're going to do to figure out who's going to take this over. Have a small mini primary within 2.5 weeks of the actual convention. Then Biden's like, nope, she's got it. And then she talked to delegates and say, hey, I got it. My name's already on the ticket. I just flip it around and put some other guy onto it. And within about a day, She got 95% of the delegates that were already pledged to Biden anyway, to her in a sense. So that was fixed. That could have been a better story. I think it's a better story. I guess it pulls at the heartstrings and tells how humanizing she is compared to the other guy. But it's hard to not be humanizing compared to the other guy. Speaking of humanizing, let's talk about JD Vance, who had a chance to humanize himself on Friday morning on CNN with an interview from John Berman, who I'm going to throw out here, that makes a difference. One of my favorite anchors on TV, because we're kind of the same age, and if I had a chance to follow in the footsteps, kind of go where he went to, that's kind of where I'd like my career to be, someplace like that. So John Berman had on JD Vance in a rebuttal interview. I'm sure he did plenty on other channels, and I'm not sure how they played out. I thought I was going to miss this one. I had to watch this one in replay, but I actually heard it on the radio. They had some difficulties getting it started, so I got into it essentially second question in, and the radio headed to work on Friday. And it wasn't a bad interview. I'm not just saying it wasn't a bad interview for JD Vance. It wasn't really a bad interview overall. I have issues with the interview. He gets a C- for his performance because I just can't quite give him a D for it. But the issues are essentially JD Vance being JD Vance. He cannot be who he isn't, or cannot not be who he isn't, or it has to be what he is. And he just had big jerk energy. And the word jerk is not where I want to go with that one. If you know me from the past and my rules of life, you know that I usually use blank and say fill in the expletive of your choice. So fill in the expletive of your choice. I'm using big jerk energy, and you cannot figure out where I was wanting to go with this one. So his answers were fine. His answers weren't terrible, but they were pretty much jerkish, like he sort of is. He plays off the kind of rough and tumble semi-Trump mode, where Trump is attack, 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 because strength, as opposed to being a jerk. What really killed it was not so much the rebuttal, not so much the questions towards taking Kamala's words and taking them out of context, take Kamala's words and saying that they're false, because that's what you do when you're running against somebody in an election. We had to bring up South Carolina Miss Teen USA from 20 years ago because he brought it up. He played a meme out somewhere, either inside interview or outside or afterwards, with the terrible gaffe that, when you're asked a question in a beauty pageant, the answer is world peace. And she couldn't get world peace. She stumbled, she bumbled, she went all over the place with that one. And what we found out is that the young lady, of course, dealt with it as an embarrassment, didn't take it all in stride initially, and was essentially considering suicide, considering ending her life, because she seemed like everything she worked for life in pageantry and having the look, having the presentation, being gone in literally 60 seconds. So, what did she do? She got better. Time made it better, but back in the day, I'm not sure if memes were really memey in 20 years ago, but it's now a meme now. It's now essentially a video clip you play whenever you want to use something dumb. And knowing the background of this one, I don't think I've used that clip. I've used that example in some issues before, not for meme-wise, but just sort of how not to get yourself into trouble when speaking. But if I have used it before, I'm definitely apologizing for it. If I think about it in the future, it won't be used. JD Vance didn't know that, didn't say he's sorry about her ordeal, but basically blamed her for having the audacity to make a mistake, and the internet for making it a meme. He in fact said the words, I'm not gonna apologize for a 20-year-old meme. He didn't apologize to Harris for using it to disparage her, which is fine. But didn't apologize to the young lady for using it now that he knew better. One thing I say often about once you know better, you do better. Now that he knows better, now that he knows that this was not just a little silly gaffe, but something kind of mean he did, he could have said these words, I didn't realize that she went through this ordeal back when it happened. I didn't realize how bad it affected her. And I'm sorry for the young lady. It seems like she's gotten better, a better place, and we're glad for that. And I hope she does well. And we invite her to actually come along and talk to us about the campaign. Maybe she'll want to join us, be a part of a spokesperson of our end for that one. But in reality, Kamala Harris, word salad, yada, yada, yada. It's easy. It's simple. why JD Vance is a stupid robot when it comes to answering questions where you can humanize yourself and win some of those people, young white women, who this woman who was in her late teens, who's now pushing 30, might be somebody he might need to vote for, him and his boss, JDT. Maybe. So it might be a chance to take that softball that John Berman put out there, and instead of watching it sink into the mud, take a swing at it. Make it work. I am not a political advisor. I am barely a journalist. I am an actual journalist. I've actually done journalism. But because I'm doing this silly thing on YouTube, it's not like I'm making, big waves in the world of commentary right now. So I'm not going to complain about that. I will say that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris combined get a C. Harris C+ for just not screwing it up. Tim Walz C- for not screwing up, but not really making it better, and not really being much of a reason be there, other than to take 15 or so minutes away from Kamala Harris having to answer questions. Maybe that's strategic. Maybe that was the point. JD Vance, I'm sure he did better with red meat for other caricatures on other networks, but for CNN interview, he gets a C. I want to give him a C-, but I don't want to give him a C because he can't escape big jerk energy. That's who he is, and he should have took that question and took that issue with the gaffe of his own meanness and made way to that one. That would have been a simple, serious B on that one, B+ for just turning that around. He could say all the nasty things he can about Kamala Harris, but he had to say something nice and inviting to the young lady that he actually made fun of, trying to make fun of Kamala Harris. I want to give him a D because I'm mean and I'm cruel like that, but that's not what's going to happen. He gets a C, a solid C for not being too terrible, but still being a jerk. That's all I got for this one. This rundown was originally planned for Saturday, yesterday, as I recorded this, because things happened. It didn't quite happen that way. And it gave me a chance to listen to some Sunday conversations, some more analysis from the Sunday shows going forward, and get into that one. So I had a chance to add that extra insight in my head. But these are my insights from the interview, which, yes, 4 days ago. But you find when you're doing these things, these videos, these ideas live for a while and take a few days to actually catch on. So my guess is, as I record this on Sunday, by Tuesday, I'll start getting more reaction to it and comments, and we'll go deeper into this one because it's ongoing. We are about 64 days away from the election. We are literally under 2 months, today being the 1st, election being on the 5th of November, and time is running out. Kamala Harris should have done more interviews by now. We'll do more interviews going forward. We think Donald Trump will call in on sports talk shows and just gab for how much as he can because he does that. JD Vance goes out to the cameras as he's told to, and that's what he's going to do. Plenty more rallies, plenty more things. CNN is having for Labor Day, because it's Labor Day, so they're not working their anchors. They're having the whole story Vessel Edition that's basically an hour of Trump's campaign, an hour of Harris's campaign, which, oddly enough, only 6 weeks old, and Trump's is almost 3 years old, so you got that going forward. But there's also just the reactions that we have going forward. This is my reaction to this interview and more to come for that one. Now that Kamala Harris is the target, you'll hear me take a different tone. My original tone was, both these guys are old. Can they both just go away? Now I have the old guy I want to go away and the younger person who's a capable person. But as I've said, honestly, when she was running for president against Biden, I don't want to vote for her. I'm voting for her. I'm saying it right now because I'm not voting for the other guy. But there are other capable Democrats who could have been here, not denouncing the history that's going to be made. But there's other folks that are just as capable in general who could have taken this spot and could probably beat Donald Trump, as we shall see going forward. She has a great story. She's galvanizing a lot of people, but it could have been someone else. At this point, 6 weeks out, it couldn't have been someone else. It had to be the vice president. It had to be her. But we could have figured this thing out a whole while back. Follow us on our feeds on Facebook and X. Facebook.com/ThisIsTheConversationProject. X.com/THS4Conversation. And every 50 minutes or so, we post news articles on our feeds for you to engage in, to give us fodder for our main stories, our main videos, which are things you might have heard. And that's the daily update for the news that you help pick. And the weekly wrap-up, which you're going to probably change to the weekly review or something like that. We're trying to figure out another name for it. because it's not wrapping up top stories by your numbers anymore. It's basically the top stories that we've produced that I kind of like the best. So we're going to rebrand that and see how that goes. Follow us on our feeds. Follow us at our website for more things about us. Consider being a partner. Consider follow us at our sponsors. And remember that life is great, even if life isn't so great for you at the moment. It just is. Thank you so much for being you, being with us. Love you. Mean it. Stick around for more of these things. Do you like these things? Is it working well? We'll see how the audio works. I think this is the third time I'm trying to do this, so it's going up, audio bad or not, to see what happens. Do you like this? Do you not like this? You let us know in the comments. Let us know how these things go. And just stick around. More to come. Election news, regular news, the supplemental news that we'd like to give you. Plenty of news from the Conversation Project on its way. Basically every day.